On his first day as a teacher, he saw a boy standing in a trash can, facing the wall. He walked over and asked what had happened. The boy said the homeroom teacher had told him he was stupid and belonged in the garbage. After hearing this, he glanced toward the classroom, then leaned in and introduced himself as the new teacher, Mr. Clark. After chatting briefly, he suddenly asked the boy, "Do you know my name?"
It's Mr. Clark.
Oh, see? You just learned something. Let's get you out of there.
That small gesture filled the boy with gratitude. Little did he know that this new teacher would change the fate of countless students. In just 4 years, he turned this rural class into the top-performing class in the entire county. Students and parents revered him like a saint, but at the height of his success, he chose to resign, because he wanted to go to the big city to pursue his educational dream, to help more students change their lives through knowledge. But the big city was not easy to conquer. All the schools looked down on this teacher from the countryside. No matter how excellent his resume, they would politely turn him away. And so Clark drifted in the city for over 10 days, his money quickly running out. With no other choice, he worked at a restaurant at night, and continued searching for schools during the day. One day, on his way home, he saw a student fighting with a teacher. Clark rushed over to intervene. Fortunately, the principal arrived in time to stop the altercation. The teacher was so furious that he quit on the spot. Quickly seizing the opportunity, Clark offered to take over. And just like that, Clark inherited this mess. The principal told him that this class was made up of the worst students in all of New York. In just half a year, 6 teachers had been driven away. Upon hearing this, Clark immediately decided to take the class. The principal advised him to think it over, but Clark believed he could change these kids. Unfortunately, his confidence did not bring him good luck. On the first day of class, the students immediately tried to intimidate him. A girl named Shamika was known as the class troublemaker. Under her leadership, the students showed Clark no respect. After finally making it through the day, the classroom was a complete mess. Clark had just let out a sigh of relief as he left the school, when he saw his car covered in spray paint. It didn't take a genius to figure out which kids had done it. The next day, when the students walked into the classroom, they were stunned. Clark had cleaned it until it sparkled, and he had painted an entire wall blue, showing the students, through action, the proper use of paint. But no one appreciated it. Even the principal thought it was nonsense and scolded Clark in front of all the students, which made Clark lose even more face. Still, he didn't give up. The next day, Clark established 55 class rules. Unsurprisingly, no one paid him any attention. As soon as the bell rang, everyone rushed to leave, only to find the door locked tight. Clark said that if they wanted to eat, they had to line up properly. That was rule number 3. Reluctantly, the students formed 2 lines, except for Shamika, who sneaked to the front. When Clark noticed, he immediately stopped the line. He said that if one person didn't follow the rules, then everyone would go hungry. Under the stares of the other students, Shamika had no choice but to comply. Clark smiled, feeling that things were finally improving. But early the next morning, when he opened the classroom door, he realized how wrong he was. His carefully decorated classroom had been trashed, and the walls were covered with insults directed at him. Although Clark was extremely angry, he chose not to pursue the matter. Instead, he tried every way to get closer to the children. But constant compromise eventually led to trouble. The next day, when Clark checked the homework, not a single student had completed it. When he questioned them, Shamika defiantly turned around and started chatting. Clark could no longer contain his anger.
Look at me! What are you?
Go to hell!
The students were terrified by his outburst. Even Clark himself was frightened by his own behavior. He packed his things in a panic and left the classroom. The students cheered immediately, but Shamika didn't look as happy as one might expect. Meanwhile, Clark went to a friend to vent. For the first time, he thought about giving up. Maybe not all students were worth saving, but his friend comforted him. There's more than one path to education. Trying a new approach from time to time might lead to unexpected rewards.
Maybe you can be that one guy that turns it around for them.
Clark finally calmed down. Early the next day, the principal, having heard what happened, assumed he would need to find another new teacher. But when he walked into the classroom, there sat Clark, still at his desk, with 20 cartons of milk in front of him. This was his new approach. Clark said that for every 2 minutes they listened attentively, he would chug a carton of milk until he was sick. The students were instantly intrigued. They wanted to see him make a fool of himself. After reaching an agreement, Clark gave a glass jar to a student and told him to tap it every 2 minutes. Then he began the lesson. At first, a girl habitually started talking, but the other students immediately stopped her. As the tapping sounds continued, Clark kept drinking milk. Time passed, and the cartons of milk on the table dwindled, while the knowledge on the blackboard grew. For the first time, a student even raised a hand to answer a question. Clark pretended to be sick from all the milk, making the children laugh heartily. Before they knew it, this class, the worst in New York, had listened attentively for an entire lesson. After class, Clark continued to bond with the students. He bet that if he could learn to jump rope with 2 ropes, they would have to keep learning new things. They quickly agreed. Jumping rope seemed simple, but Clark tripped as soon as he started. Every fall was met with merciless laughter from the students, but after repeated attempts, he gradually got the hang of it. Through his actions, he showed these children that with persistence, nothing is impossible. Unfortunately, the principal saw this and called Clark into his office to scold him. He said he had no hope left for those delinquents, and asked Clark not to let them corrupt the other classes. Hearing this, Clark immediately stood up for his students. He believes that every student has unique talents. Education should not be judged solely by grades. Then he made a bet with the principal. He guaranteed that every student in his class would pass the mid-year entrance exam. Otherwise, he is willing to accept any consequence, and all that he said was heard by the students outside the door. That night, Clark gathered all the students in the classroom. He lit a candle and said solemnly, "If you don't want to be looked down on anymore, and want to win a better future for yourselves, then come up and light a candle. Let's fight together." This time, the students didn't joke or cause trouble. One by one, they came forward and lit their own candles of determination. From that moment on, they truly believed that their teacher could lead them to a miracle. The next day, the students listened attentively, but Clark quickly noticed that the history lessons in the textbook were too boring. The students couldn't focus. While trying to solve this problem, he was distracted by loud music from upstairs. Then, inspiration struck. He spent the night turning the knowledge into catchy rap. When the strong rhythm filled the classroom, music and knowledge danced together, igniting everyone's passion for learning. The advanced class next door was green with envy. In this fun learning atmosphere, most of the students improved significantly, but recently, he noticed that Shamika, the most gifted student, had stopped doing her homework again. When Clark visited her home, he learned that after school every day, Shamika not only had to do housework but also helped take care of her 3 younger brothers. She had no time to do homework. After learning this, Clark immediately took over babysitting duty, allowing Shamika time to catch up on her assignments. But when Shamika's mother came home and saw this, she was not grateful. Instead, she reported Clark to the principal, asking for him to be fired for disturbing the family. This time, Clark didn't stay silent, even if he had to leave. He couldn't bear to see such a talented student buried by housework. But Shamika's mother was unmoved. Just as they were leaving, Shamika suddenly turned around and pleaded with the principal.
Please don't fire Mr. Clark. He was just trying to help me, Mama. He was just trying to help.
Unbeknownst to him, Clark had already entered these children's hearts, but her mother insisted on taking Shamika out of school. Clark chased after them and told her, "Your daughter is outstanding, creative, and intelligent. She even has a chance of getting into a better middle school."
Shamika. My Shamika.
Yes.
The mother was stunned. She had never thought of her daughter as so remarkable. Seeing the sincerity in Clark's eyes, she gradually began to believe that this teacher might truly lead her daughter to a different life. She agreed to set aside time every day to care for the younger children, giving Shamika more time to do homework. Even the principal couldn't help but praise Clark. This day, Clark happened to notice a drawing on a doorknob. Its unique artistic talent shocked him deeply. Just then, a student nearby said he had drawn it, earning high praise from Clark. But the real artist was Sean, who was standing behind. He confronted the student, asking why he would falsely claim someone else's work, only to be mocked and told his art was garbage. Sean threw a hard punch at him. Then he was summoned along with his parents to the school. In the end, the principal decided to expel Sean according to school rules. But to everyone's surprise, Sean's parents also fully supported the decision, because it would save them the small amount of tuition. However, Clark refused to give up. He angrily called out the parents for having no sense of responsibility. Thanks to his determined advocacy, Sean was finally allowed to stay. To keep Sean from getting into trouble again, Clark began tutoring him individually, sometimes having to endure his irritability and outbursts.
8 equals 3 eighths!
Yes! Oh, that's great. Just keep doing it like that.
Day after day, through relentless effort and dedication, Clark's body finally gave out. One day in class, he suddenly started coughing uncontrollably, then collapsed to the floor. The students burst into laughter, thinking Clark was pulling another prank, but this time it was real. Instantly, all the students panicked. After the ambulance took the teacher away, the students looked deeply worried. After an examination, it turned out Clark had pneumonia from exhaustion. Though not life-threatening, the doctor advised him to rest at home for 2 weeks, but the exam to enter middle school was only 1 month away. Not wanting to fall behind, Clark ignored his weak body, and, with a friend's help, recorded teaching videos in advance. And so, the students started taking online classes in their classroom. When the principal saw this, he was completely stunned. When did these kids become so well-behaved? 2 weeks later, Clark made a full recovery. The students sincerely prepared a welcome ceremony for him. Yet, contrary to expectations, Clark flew into a rage. It turned out that in a mock exam a few days earlier, half of the students had failed. Clark knew they had learned what they needed to, but their long history of being bad students made them lack confidence when facing challenges. So he told the children sternly, "Next week's exam will be a major turning point in your lives. It's not only a chance to prove yourselves, but also the beginning of changing your future." The students looked thoughtful. On the day of the exam, Sean ran into 2 troublemaking friends on the road. They tried to get him to go do something bad, and Clark happened to see this. He immediately called out to Sean and told him to go take the exam. On one side were his buddies, on the other was his teacher's sincere gaze. In the end, Sean made a decision, unaware that this choice would completely change his life. The students answered questions calmly inside the exam room. While outside, Clark was so nervous he didn't know what to do. The bell rang, and the exam finally ended. Seeing the students' relaxed expressions, Clark finally felt relieved. Before the results came out, he decided to take the whole class to the movies for some relaxation. The students happily headed out, but Sean was nowhere to be seen. Worried, Clark rushed to Sean's home. The room was a mess. Suddenly, a mural caught his eye. A masked teenager removing his mask. Only then did Clark realize that the original drawing had been done by Sean. In the past, Sean had closed himself off. Now, at last, he had taken off the disguise hidden in the darkness. Clark anxiously searched everywhere. Finally, by a pile of trash, he found Sean Sean, his face covered in blood. His father had abused him and thrown him out of the house. Clark tried his best to comfort him. "I know those artworks were yours. Don't worry, all the suffering is over now." Hearing this, Sean finally let his guard down and cried hard. Later, when the principal learned what had happened, he voluntarily took Sean in and promised to take good care of him. On the last day of the semester, Clark held an awards ceremony. For those good at history, he gave a scholarship award. For those talented in art, a Van Gogh award. Though these trophies weren't valuable or prestigious, they gave the students something invaluable: confidence. Just then, the principal walked in with a stack of report cards. Everyone in the room instantly became tense and hopeful.
The 6th grade class tested higher than any other class. You even tested higher than the honors class.
The classroom then burst into enthusiastic applause. In just half a year, they had accomplished an impossible miracle. With patience and persistence, they proved that as long as you don't give up, life holds infinite possibilities. Afterward, Clark wrote a book about his teaching experiences. It became a huge hit as soon as it was published, reaching 3rd place on the 2003 U.S. bestseller list. At only 28 years old, Clark received the honor of National Teacher of the Year. His 55 classroom rules were adopted worldwide, helping countless misled children find their way back onto the right track.